through their unbelief. They crucified Christ. That meant the end of the Jews as the theocratic nation, so that others can be included. This means the end of the Mosaic legislation, which kept the Gentiles at arm's length. And then this crucified Christ, crucified through the sins of the Jews, and I might add, the sins of the Roman Empire, representing the whole world, the whole Gentile world, us too. This crucified Christ later rose from the dead and ascended into heaven to sit as ruler of the universe, not as some mere earthly throne in the Middle East, but as the Catholic Christ in heaven, ruling over a universal church. And so the gospel comes to the Gentiles. The Holy Ghost comes to the Gentiles. The church embraces Gentiles because Jesus Christ is active, gathering, preserving, and defending to himself a church chosen out of every nation, kindred, tribe, and tongue. And maybe you can see the implications of this. The next verse is going to make it explicit. If God can save Gentiles who formerly worshipped wood and stone, then can't God save the Jews, his own people? If God can save Gentiles who lived in idolatry for 2.5 millennia, then surely he can save the Jews. The point is, God will continue to save the Jews. This is another argument. And verse 30 is explaining God's way with the Gentiles, the first point of the sermon. And verse 31 deals with God's way with the Jews, which constitutes the second point of the sermon. The two are linked. And you see the logic. For as the Gentiles did not believe God and were in complete idolatry, but God showed mercy on them through your unbelief, even so the Jews which currently do not believe, through God's mercy shown to the Gentiles, they will now be brought to salvation by God's mercy. And there is first here an argument from the harder thing to the easier thing. If I said to you that I can run a marathon, which of course I couldn't do now, but if I said I could run a marathon, you would know thereby that I could run a mile down the road. If you can do the harder thing, you can do the easier thing. Well, if God can save the Gentiles who were in complete idolatry for 2,500 years after Noah, and they are wild olive branches, then God can do the easier thing and save the Jews who are the natural olive branches, to use the ideas of previous verses. And then secondly, we note about this contrast and comparison that in both the salvation of the Jews and the salvation of the Gentiles, God uses the instrumentality of one group to save the other group. How are the Gentiles saved according to verse 30? Through the Jewish unbelief and disobedience. Through their killing of Christ. God then turns to the Gentiles. Well, how are the Jews saved according to verse 31? They are saved through the Gentiles receiving mercy. And the mercy referred to in verse 31 is not our mercy to the Jews, although we should be merciful to the Jews, but that's not the teaching of this verse. It's God's mercy in saving us, Gentiles. And this harkens back to an earlier part of the chapter, developed under one word, jealousy. The positive jealousy, not the negative jealousy, which is 99% of the use of the word. The positive jealousy. Salvation has come to the Gentiles, according to verse 11, for to provoke the Jews to jealousy. Verse 14, Paul provokes the Jews to emulation or jealousy, and so might save some of them. So that, you remember the argument, the Jews saying, well, here we are, dry as dust with our Talmud, can't make head or tail of the Old Testament. You know, this talks about a temple and priestly rituals, and we haven't got a temple, and we don't know who the priests are anymore, and we can't do these laws, we can't keep them, and there's no hope, and I don't know the forgiveness of sins. But these Christians, they have something we don't, and so they then turn, the elect Jews, and receive the Lord Christ. And so the apostles' inspired reasoning runs along these lines. God will continue to save the Jews throughout the New Testament age, that is, the elect ones to whom the covenant promises are made, not only because of the Old Testament prophecies, verses 26 and 27, not only because of the truth of election and the effectual call and gifts of salvation, but as you Gentiles in your own history and experience can testify, God saved you. And if God can save you, worshippers of wood and hay and stubble, and sometimes lizards and cats and all sorts of crazy things, well, God can save the Jews too. And God will continue to save the Jews in the way set forth in our text and throughout this chapter, the mutually beneficial reciprocal relationship between the Jews and the Gentiles, such that the Jews reject Christ, nail him on the tree, they're cast off as the people of God. Christ ascends into heaven, pours out the Spirit, saves the Gentiles. The Jews become jealous and are saved. So God will see to it. And God will see to it, and this to me is perhaps even as big a wonder, God will see to it, even though much of the Gentile church is apostate and thoroughly rotten, like the Laodicean church, so it's that Christ is ready to vomit it out of his mouth. And we have a very little sense of God's holiness. But even we would want to vomit them out through that, disgusting to us, never mind God through their unbelief and apostasy. But God will use the remnant of the Gentiles to save the remnant of the Jews. And then verse 32 explains that although Jews and Gentiles have this reciprocal role in the salvation of each other, basically and spiritually, both groups are in exactly the same position. For God hath concluded them all, Jews and Gentiles, in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all, Jews and Gentiles. And that word concluded is even richer in the original Greek. It means shut up together. God has taken Jews and Gentiles and shut them up together, put them in a prison with the doors locked and bolted. To use another image, God has shut up Jews and Gentiles in a besieged city, like one surrounded by a hostile army, and supplies can't get in or out. Or like fish in a net, and you can't wiggle through any of the little holes. God has actively shut up Jews and Gentiles together by providence, so that he governs the fall and each and every sin and all apostasy and all idolatry, shutting up Jews and Gentiles in the prison together. Effectively, actively doing this, not merely declaring it or permitting it or letting it happen or turning a blind eye to it, but with a punitive control over all the human race of Jew and Gentile, so that they're all shut up, locked up together, Jew and Gentile, in unbelief and disobedience.